let's begin. I'm John Engel, and I'm in Art Basel. I'm in Miami this week for episode 67 of Boroughs and Burbs. And I'd like to welcome my co-host, Roberto, in New York, Upper West Side, right? 79th Street, I think?
75th Street in Columbus.
75th Street in Columbus. Usually people say, wow, what a gorgeous apartment. Is that for sale? And then we have to spend 5 minutes on Roberto's apartment. But we're not going to do that this week. We have a lot to cover. I'm very excited to have Jacob Sudhoff and Catherine Lee in Texas. But before I start, I have to do one gratuitous shot of the floor at Art Basel here. You can see this guy is just recycling his stuff on my desk. There we go. All right, but now I can begin. I hope Jacob is with us. Jacob, there you are.
I am.
There he is.
How are you guys doing? Sorry, I was having technical difficulties.
No, I totally understand. So now I'm making you the co-host. I'm going to pull your Hollywood square up to the top with me. Welcome, Jacob Sudhoff, senior leadership advisor, co-owner, co-founder, and CEO of Elliman, Texas, and your partner in crime, Catherine Lee, who I had the pleasure of spending an hour with this week learning all about Texas. So I feel a little bit prepared to do this show, but not much. I got to tell you, I'm very excited to learn about Texas because with the exception of maybe Florida, who think they have the hottest market in the country, I think the rest of us know that Texas is undisputed number one in the country in terms of growth. You've got 2 of the top 10 markets in Austin and Dallas, and you got 2 more of the hottest markets in San Antonio and Houston right behind. So with that, welcome, Catherine. Welcome, Jacob. And so happy to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having us. We're excited to talk about Texas. That's, born and raised. Jacob is as well. So we feel like COVID helped people to wake up to Texas. We've always thought it was the best. So nothing new.
For sure.
Well, there's a huge independent streak. I mean, people in Texas, is it true? You think Texas is like a separate country?
Well, at one time it was. So I think.
And then we took care of that.
Yes, you did. But no, I do think that we have this very much of an independent streak, but we're very pro-business. And I like to say that we're the perfect shade of purple. Blue cities in a red state makes great for business. And so that's why I think Texas is really primed for growth, and why we love living here so much is it has balance in so many different ways.
So let's talk a moment about both of your backgrounds, because I found that fascinating. You guys are a perfect yin-yang combination. Catherine, I learned, came out of a law degree, bought herself 3, then 4, then pretty soon 22 Applebee's, and ran 22 Applebee's with 1,300 employees before she discovered that the really interesting part of running 22 restaurants was the real estate part of the business. And so I think of Catherine as an analyst who can think about the business side of things and figures out where's the profitability. She talks about you, although you and I have never met, as this force, this energy, this incredible marketing, and you came up in the business of real estate as an 18-year-old. And why don't you tell us about your background from 18 on?
Well, I actually started at 16. I started working for a broker that was on Lifestyles of Rich and Famous with Robin Leach at 16 years old out of a small town called Corpus Christi. Got my license at 18, youngest agent in the state of Texas. And then, decided and been in the business since. So I've been in the business a very long time, tried all different types of things. Used to own a Grubb & Ellis affiliate office down in Corpus Christi. So it was in commercial and residential, and just have grown up in this business and moved to Houston 2010, right after the '08 crisis, and kind of decided to reimagine myself and decided to get into only new development and builders. And so I built a business that was focused on new construction. And that's when I got to meet Catherine's family office, and ended up starting to, fund a lot of these builders and developers by sourcing them their equity and debt. And of course, I got their listings for it and became the #1 agent in Central Houston and controlled 85% of the condo market. Well, and after I did that and kind of got into, learned how to do the debt and equity, and now also do that as well. So we have another company called Ally Structured Capital that we're actually partners with these builders and developers and co-developing and different, from single family homes to condominium projects to multifamily, built to rent, all kinds of different things. So it's a very much of a broad platform. And but Elliman is we love the platform of Elliman and how it integrates into the everyday business of what we do.
And was it, so what caused you to decide to focus entirely on new development? Did Catherine have to join you and say that's where the money is? Or were you always just interested in new development?
I think I saw a lot of different folks that did new development, and I liked that it was more of a business versus a kind of working the weekends on Sunday open houses. I used to have no life, and what ended up happening was being able to run a business versus being a resale agent really appealed to me. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And I was able to build an infrastructure that kind of, I was able to run the infrastructure versus actually do it myself. And so it really changed the way I did it. Because I used to, when I left Corpus Christi, I had about 518 listings and of single family Mr. and Mrs. Smith homes. And that's a lot of people to have to call and maintain. And when I got to Houston doing the new construction, I was able to do thousands of listings, but only have a few clients, and so it was much easier of being able to help manage the business and work smarter, not harder.
So you're not a broker, you're a business manager in
Correct.
real estate. Okay.
Correct. And I don't practice as an agent anymore. We do referrals. I generate business for the company. I don't practice as an agent and do listings or buyers anymore. But it's something that I was very passionate about for a very, very long time, and I really enjoy it. And I love getting the business, and I get a high off of it. But I also like running the business and actually building the business.
How many agents do you have?
Right now, we have over 300 agents in Texas.
Okay. Can we just, in general, I know nothing about Texas. I've never stepped foot in Texas. Can we just go super macro and just, I'm looking at a map of Texas, like how do you characterize, how Dallas is different from Houston and San Antonio and Austin and way out Midland? Can you just give me a general overview of that? And then we can kind of go a little more micro.
Sure. So I'm speaking a little bit off kilter here, but let's just do it. So Texas, we like to say it's the Texas Triangle, and the Texas Triangle goes from Dallas to Austin, then San Antonio, and to Houston, and it's a nice little triangle. So Texas Triangle right now has about 22, 23 million people in it. It's the state of Florida right now. By the year 2030, it's supposed to be 30 million people, much larger than the state of Florida. So we're growing at an exponential rate. We have the highest, increase in GDP as a state in the United States. We have the lowest debt per citizen of any state in the state of Texas. We have such a surplus that they're thinking about lowering our taxes of cash flow in Texas. And Texas has more Fortune 500 companies than any other state, and we're getting more of them. And we are growing at an exponential rate, both from GDP, but also from growth and jobs. #1 in job creator as well. So a lot of people, it's been a great, and what's so different about the different cities is Houston's really known for its energy and medical. #1, it's energy for renewable energies, oil and gas, everything energy related. Houston is that. Houston is the blue collar city. It's a huge city, has more money than anywhere in Texas. It actually is right behind New York City in net wealth of any city in the United States. Extremely old money, very, very, the richest man in Houston drives an F1 pickup truck. So in Houston, the more money that you have, the least you want to show it. That's the opposite in Dallas. Dallas, we say they have Dallitude. And so Dallas is very much of the more you the more you have, the more you want to flaunt it and show it off. And so Dallas is very much.
Is that where the
more
expression "big hat, no cattle" comes from?
Yes. And going back to Houston, #1 medical center in the world, largest medical center in the world, huge on medicine, huge on a lot of different, our port is gigantic. The port just got expanded because the Panama Canal was widened to be able to handle much larger ships. And so Houston ports, all the, distribution centers, everything, Houston's really, really growing in that space. Dallas, the financial sector. Dallas is Goldman Sachs is moving thousands of people to North Dallas. And Dallas itself has just got an amazing amount of job growth from all kinds of places, but New York City from the financial sector, and then also just people from California and all over the country and the world. But Dallas is a very much larger kind of mix of different types of companies. A lot of the Fortune 500 companies have moved to Dallas and Austin. Of course, we got like HP and some other ones that have moved, and Exxon moved their headquarters to Houston from Dallas. And a lot of people are consolidating in different locations, but it's been very neat to be able to kind of see Dallas really kind of grow into what it is today. Austin, tech. It's the Silicon Valley of the South.
Is it because of the University of Texas? The University of Texas created Austin?
No, I would actually say Michael Dell actually had the bigger impact into it. Michael Dell really was a major influence in tech for Austin. And he still is today. MSD Capital and everything they're doing is it's amazing. And so, but I do think that UT now does play a major role in it. And UT actually plays a major role in the medicine side as well. If you've ever heard of MD Anderson, that's UT. I mean, out of, from the cancer hospitals, those kind of things. So, so Austin tech, really amazing. San Antonio is actually growing at an exponential rate. It's actually a suburb of Austin now. A lot of cops and people that can't afford Austin actually live in San Antonio or live somewhere between. They are actually becoming one metroplex. So you're going to actually see Austin and San Antonio kind of become one MSA. And it's just because of the growth similar to Fort Worth, Dallas, So I do think that, the different cities have very different personalities. They have they're very different in demographics of what is being attracted. And it's very unique. And you go to Houston is the melting pot of the United States. There's more diversity in Houston than New York City. I mean, it's just crazy. Dallas.
So I have to pivot. I got to pivot to the analyst. I mean, I believe that I am being sold by the consummate salesman on why Texas is great. But I have got to pivot to Catherine and say, but after a couple of years of 20% growth, and I think I put in the newsletter that we've seen 115% growth over the last 10 years and 210% growth over the last 20. I mean, it's been growing like crazy for 20 years. But some people say you can't continue being a low cost state. You're going to have to start creating a great deal more. You're going to have to catch up and create a great deal of infrastructure that you have not done so, that this rate of growth is not sustainable. Tell me why that's wrong. Tell me why we can't see another 20 years of growth in Texas. Or are you dependent on the energy cycles, the oil market, the tech, vagaries of the tech sector? Why is this going to continue?
I mean, so every city I feel is a little different, right? And, you heard kind of the different industries and the different characteristics of every city. Growth in Texas, even though you may look at it and say, gosh, it's been growing like crazy. It's not really sustainable. But from the perspective of housing prices, and John, we kind of discussed this earlier, but I'll kind of talk about it, more in detail here. But as far as housing prices go, it really hasn't gone up in the major cities that substantially, except for Austin. Austin's a little bit unique, right? It's outside of sort of Dallas and Houston and San Antonio. But a lot of it is because, as I mentioned, a lot of people across the country have always viewed Texas as a secondary market. It's never been one of the markets that people look to from an investment perspective. It's always, when you ask a real estate investor that is investing on a national scale, they're going to say, oh yeah, Texas is part of the secondary. It's similar to the Nashvilles, the Atlantas, they feel like Texas has always kind of been in that category, right? Versus New York and the coasts have always been in a different category, right, of investment. And so, it hasn't really driven prices up, even though, there has been pretty sustained growth. And as far as city planning goes, I think Austin is probably the one that's going to be the most challenged because it did start off as a college town. John, as you mentioned earlier, it did start that way. But like Houston and Dallas, they are basically, if you go look at Los Angeles, we are essentially 15 years behind them. Except we actually have built quite a bit of infrastructure in Houston and Dallas already. The growth is just continues to go up and down all the various loops that we have. So In actuality, there's just so much land that still remains to be developed in the city, in all of the cities. In fact, right before this podcast, I was just on a call for an hour with a gentleman who, he is someone who helps all of the large publicly traded manufactured home companies identify 100 to 300 acres worth of land for manufactured homes. And his primary market is Texas. And I said, well, why is it Texas? I mean, nobody really likes manufactured homes in general. Although I think the stigma is kind of changing because there's a lot more things that are going in that direction of prefab, pre-manufactured, right? So that stigma is changing a little bit. But he said, well, the reality is, Catherine, you guys have the land, right? And there continues to be the demand for affordable housing in these markets, and capital, has been waiting in the wings, and all of these publicly traded companies are now pouring into these purchases here in Texas. And so we're going to continue to have affordable homes, whether it comes in the form of manufactured homes or builders that are buying up huge tracts of land and building that starter home at 180,000 or 210,000. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many of these deals. He says he literally can't fulfill all of the demand for the manufactured homes. He said in Texas is probably the only state, 60% of his business is in Texas, because there still continues to be land available. And a lot of it is because all of our land, in the outskirts and in between, the triangle, it's actually not that far. So geographically, Houston and Austin's only 2.5 hours away, right? And so when you think about all of that land in between, if you lived right smack in the middle, like Jacob does, Jacob actually lives on a farm in between Austin and Houston, and he's just 1 hour away from every major city, but he lives on how many acres, Jacob?
Almost 100. And
that was my question. In the triangle, it's essentially farmland.
Practically. Yep.
Yeah,
and all developable.
Yes.
And
now,
unlike
Catherine,
California and other places.
Catherine, when you're talking about land in the cities, you're talking about the availability of land actually within the city limits, not just that you can expand out, because obviously you have a tremendous amount of land.
But there's so much in ETJs, there's MUDs that can provide utilities. I mean, there's so many options here in Texas. And I think that's what's also makes it a little bit unique, is that the challenge with land development is the availability of utilities, right? Being able to find, sewer, someone who's going to, provide utilities to the land. But uniquely in Texas, a lot of that is available. And so, they've created, municipal utility districts, and the ETJs all welcome. If you can get utilities, they're happy to accommodate. So we're so development friendly. And so to answer your question, John, I don't see, in the foreseeable future, despite there being substantial growth, I don't see an issue of not being able to meet that demand, because Texas just is so friendly to development. I mean, even the time it takes.
So I'm hearing that you got a great labor force and that you have plenty of land, but you are acknowledging that you need more infrastructure. And so the question is, are you going to remain a low-cost state, or is that going to catch up with you? A lot of people said that after Joe Rogan decamped for Texas, they said, as soon as Joe Rogan and everybody else goes down there because it's cheaper, it's going to make it more expensive. It's going to make Texas just like California.
Well, I think Austin is for sure going down that route, but Houston still is, because Houston has no entitlements, and it's still the cheapest, largest city to live in the United States, and it is cheaper to live in Houston than San Antonio. So Houston has significant infrastructure, has the largest loop in the world of man-made around our city. And we have multiple loops around the city. Houston has amazing infrastructure. Dallas has amazing infrastructure. Now, Austin, not so much, but that's what they wanted. That's what the whole campaign was, keep Austin weird. But I would just say that Texas does have amazing infrastructure. We have our own power grid that has been enhanced since our Freeze-Mageddon. We have plenty of water, which is a major deal for major cities, because I know that's a big deal. So we have all the components to actually sustain growth and sustain the population. And also our climate is actually, I mean, it's actually not bad. I mean, it's actually, we like, I mean, the summers are hot, at least in the coast of Houston, but Austin and Dallas and kind of central part of the state, it's just great. So we do have the more mild temperatures in the wintertime. And so just, you know, so I do think that I do believe that we have at least many decades ahead of us of continued growth.
And you have to remember, you know, for Texas, it's a property tax state. Our property tax rates are not cheap, right? Because we don't have a state income tax. And as development happens, guess what? Property taxes get paid, right? We don't have the same thing in California where, you know, your property taxes don't go up until a transaction occurs. That doesn't exist in Texas. Every year you got to look at that property tax bill. But of course, the vast majority of property tax income comes from commercial. So, you know, we're talking about the Amazon warehouses that are paying it, the Tesla, you know, manufacturing that's going to pay those property taxes. So it doesn't just come from the $200,000 homeowner, it's coming largely from commercial development. So
all of your properties are being assessed every year.
Every year.
Yes, every year.
Oh,
Unlike California.
yeah, we assess every 5 in Connecticut. So.
But on a homestead, which we have amazing homestead laws in Texas, the most they can go up per year is 3%.
Yeah. So homeowners, if anything, are protected so that the cost of homeownership is down, it's cheaper. And the vast majority of that revenue is collected from, you know, your retail strip centers, hotels, offices, you know, commercial development.
So talk to me about the development of your business. You began as a Houston developer. You're in Houston now, but you've now expanded to 4 cities, all 4 of the major ones, and you have plans for more. Why expand? I mean, you've already, I guess, dominated Houston with an 85% market share. You have to move to the next city and gobble it up too?
Of course, right now we're really focused. You know, Elliman, we just took on the 4 Seasons in Austin, on Lake Austin, which is actually, you know, just an amazing project and breaking records in Texas. We have several more condominium projects we're working on around the state. But you know, we really want to expand the Elliman brand, and then also expand what we're doing. You know, I feel like what we as Elliman agents and us as a company, what we're really wanting is we're bringing a different level of professionalism to the market, and also our reach and the type of agents that we have is very unique in comparison to most of the other companies, especially the local companies. And I feel like our agents that join us are able to really experience and get to know how these other markets we could work and learn about other markets, and then how do they compare to ours. And the more that we bring that to Texas, because Texas has always been, like what Catherine was saying, sort of that secondary market. And so what it is that we're trying to bring, we're helping bring and elevate Texas to more of a national level.
Let's just backtrack. So for people who don't know, you started in the business around 20 years ago and only merged with Elliman 3 years ago. So 2018?
2019.
So
2019.
So you built a rather substantial business on your own as an independent, which is interesting because I have a huge respect for the independents that get it done. And then you made the decision to connect with Elliman. And so begs the question, why? What's the importance of associating yourself with a national brand, or what I would call a New York centric brand? And I say that because Roberto's there in New York, and New Yorkers, you know, are always wondering what is the impact of the New York market on other markets?
You know, I love the fact that you're in New York, Roberto, but you know, I don't think Elliman is a New York centric brand. I don't think it is. I think it's national. And you know, when Jacob and I started looking at different brands, and why we chose to go with a brand is, you know, we felt like we needed a company that had national reach. That was huge for us. And you know, I feel like we became experts in our market, but we really saw that our clients would be better serviced if we had relationships nationally, right? And internationally. And, we looked at a couple of the major brands that we really only did new development and new construction. We were not in the resale business. And so we needed a brand, obviously, that had that kind of expertise. And there's pretty much only a few that have any of that kind of experience. And so we actually did quite a bit of diligence. Jacob and I did quite a bit, 2.5 years of looking at various different opportunities, also discussing with Elliman. But, when we looked at all the various brands, we narrowed it down to Elliman. Of course, it wasn't easy to convince Howard Lorber. Howard and Kim
interestingly,
they thought we lived in New York.
Interestingly, you guys solicited to do this. Usually it's the national company that comes into a city and they say, who's here? We want to buy them or them. And you guys literally reversed you also had the leverage because of you owned that market essentially. But it's really interesting how you guys switched that flow.
We understood what was coming, that this was right when Compass was really, and we did meet with Compass and those kind of things, but this was right at the beginning. We understood what was happening. And also we wanted to be able to expand our footprint outside of Houston. We had, attempted to take a look at Austin and some of the other markets, but it was just more difficult without having that either national flag or being local. And so by being able to have the national flag and the experience that Elliman brings and the reach it has, we were able to then easily, break in these other markets with that flag in comparison to doing it our own. We were able to dominate and own Houston, and it was great. And it was very good for us for many years. But I think that with Elliman, it allowed us to really, we're now in Dallas, we're now in Houston, in Austin and San Antonio. And so I just think it's really great for us to, Elliman provided us a platform that allowed us to break in these markets. It gave us immediate name recognition for the right people, especially the big developers and different folks. Not everybody knew the brand down here. It was not a household name. It has become much more of a household name, and things it is, every day becomes more and more. But it was very much of a situation that we believed in the brand. We believed in the people. I think for us, it was really about the people. And we built a relationship with them, and we felt like they would be good partners for us to be able to grow what we had done in Houston throughout the state of Texas.
You have to, when you go into a partnership with somebody, right, you have to align on the vision of what they see as well, right? And some of our competitors out there, their vision is very short-sighted. They're looking at next quarter, they're looking at 6 months from now, a year from now. And a lot of times the decisions that they make are done with that perspective, right? And for us, we felt like, gosh, we're going to be in this business for a really long time. Jacob looks like he's 25.
Yeah, right. I wish.
So
you do.
And we really needed to align ourselves with not only a brand that understood how to, stay the course and have longevity and stability, but also leadership that had the experience of weathering various storms, right? Going up and down. Everyone knows real estate has its cycles, right? We're in a cycle now. But we needed to align ourselves with leadership that understood how to get through that and understood how to lead a company and an organization through that. And that, for us was a critical piece of it. Because, the other stuff, their expertise and all of that, that's a given. If they don't have that, we can't be partners, right? But the reason why we selected Elliman is because it literally checked every single one of those boxes. Every single competitor out there, and I'm not going to name them here, but we met with all of them. They don't have it. They don't. And as an entrepreneur, Jacob and I, like partnership, it's like marriage. You're in it for life, right? You're in it for life. Once you sign those documents, you're in it for life. And so, for us making that kind of decision, we really felt like that the partnership had to check all of those boxes, and Elliman and its leadership did that for us.
Why San Antonio? I'm going to say I get it with Dallas. Dallas has been a solid performer, has a lot of infrastructure, for a very long time. And Austin, I get it. University of Texas and Tech, I get it. But I'm trying to imagine the conversation that you had I don't know, maybe a year ago, probably with Elliman in New York, and said, yeah, we want to open up San Antonio. And they would say, but we're heading into a cycle. What makes you think that investing in opening San Antonio is a good idea? So talk to me about that decision. Why San Antonio? Why one more city? Why not just perfect Dallas, Austin, Houston?
You
It
know,
actually, oh,
go ahead.
I'll
Go ahead, Jacob.
well, I'll just say it actually came from a New York agent that moved to San Antonio. And it was really funny. We were not going to go down there for until we had perfected everything. But a top agent from New York found his bride over COVID and decided to move to San Antonio. And so he was somebody that had been with Elliman for a very long time and wanted and needed support down there. And we wanted to support him, and we really enjoyed him, and he's been awesome. And so it's not been a full like launch of the office and everything else, but we are there. We have an office, we have agents down there and everything else. But San Antonio is a market that is one of the fastest growing markets in the country. It's amazing with what's happening down there. A lot of companies are going down there as well, because it is that whole kind of sector between Austin and San Antonio are almost becoming one city. Many of our Austin agents are doing business in San Antonio, and our agents in San Antonio are doing business in Austin. So it's almost like I said before, in one MSA. And so that's how we're kind of looking at it. Is it's the same sales manager from Austin's running San Antonio as well.
I love the fact that you say, wait,
type of dynamic. Dallas and Fort Worth, it's just one and the same.
Correct. That's how we treat it. Is it's one MSA for us for Dallas Fort Worth, similar to Austin San Antonio, one MSA. But Houston is as large as both of is two cities combined. So that's why
What's the population of Houston?
We're right about Catherine, aren't we like 6 million?
Yeah, about little over 6 million.
Yeah, a little over 6 million. We're right on the edge of becoming the third largest city in America, about to surpass Chicago.
So we have a question in the chat saying, are you looking at Waco as well? We visited Balcones recently, and the city seems to offer many possibilities besides being so accessible from Dallas and Austin. But what I heard you say was that you took the opportunity because you had a great agent that you believed in. So sometimes the timing is dependent on having a great agent that you believe in opening up a market for you, even if the company wasn't thinking it. You got to do it.
And you got to do it. You got to support your agents. You got to be there for them. You got to give them the resources necessary. And, he had stuck with Elliman over the years and been very successful in New York, and just so happened to find the love of his life. He got married and moved to San Antonio, Texas, and so it's been great. But going back to the question about Waco, the entire I-35 corridor that runs pretty much down the center of Texas, that corridor is what everyone is looking at. Waco is for sure on the list eventually. We're not there yet. We are still focused on, growing our markets together in Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio and Houston. But I will say it will be in the future. It is a great place to live. People really like it. And, Baylor's there. There's a lot of different things that are happening in that area. But
is it too late for me to get a good deal? A good deal on maybe a 100-acre farm like you?
Actually, the
farms get a 100-acre farm in Waco?
Are pretty expensive. Yeah, you can, but you're going to pay for it. But the farm and ranches they actually have had their best years in many years. Billions and billions of dollars worth of farm and ranches have sold. There's actually one for sale. One recently sold earlier this year for $200 million. I mean, so there's a lot of larger ranches in Texas that are selling, and but it's been interesting. A lot of people from out of the state, for the first time, more people from out of the state have purchased large ranches than people in the state, and that's been the first in the history for over about 50, 80 years. And so that's been a new trend.
Can we talk about the terrain?
Second homes? Are they second homes?
Yes.
Or are they first?
Second homes. They're ranches. Yep, working ranches.
We did a show on Montana and Wyoming, and the people who bought the ranches there. Are these ranches competing with those same buyers to some extent? And what is the difference of the terrain between your ranches and those ranches?
So one nice thing about Texas, we have all different types of terrain. Texas is we have mountains, we've got plains, we've got everything you could think of. And most people don't remember that about Texas, but the hill country of Texas and you go out to West Texas and it's mountainous. And so, but then you go to Houston, it's flat and coastal land. So it depends on what the people are looking for. But, in some cases we do compete, for the certain type of, demographic that's buying those huge ranches. But I think we're starting to see a lot more people that want to have Texas residency. And so they will claim it as their homestead for tax purposes. And so they'll actually have that as their main home. So for tax purposes, they get taxed in Texas. But so that's been a big deal. And so that's why I think we've outsold like Montana and some of these other states, because we're a better place to have your homestead. And in Texas, your entire ranch can be your homestead. So if you can buy it and really hold a lot of cash there and it's safe from creditors, practically the only thing they can get is the IRS or a first lien. So so a lot of people do that. And so I think that, I do feel that the ranch market in Texas has been a lot of people moving out of the big cities and buying ranches. Like myself, I moved out of Houston, we moved to a ranch. But then there's also people that are just doing it as a pure investment or as a homestead type solution. Or people come and just want to have a place to hunt or a place to, have family retreats or whatever it is. And so they're buying places in Texas as well.
What would one expect to pay?
Ranchettes are making a comeback now. So it's, so Houston, Texas has all these ranges of huge acreage, thousands of acres for ranches. But now you're seeing developers go back to, way back in the day when they used to develop the ranches and then sell little ranchettes of like 10 acres or 15 acres to city people at a more affordable price. But they still feel like, wow, 10 acres. 10 acres is a lot actually, and can still be maintained, right? It's hard to imagine trying to maintain 200 acres, 300 acres. So the ranchettes and that development has been starting to make a comeback.
So what sort of budget does someone need? Let's just say they wanted to get out of New York. Is that I do want a ranch, but I don't want to be up in the cold. I want to be down there. And if someone wanted to say, look, I'd love to have 50 acres, what sort of budget do they need to find something in that triangle there, like near College Station, whatever is there?
So like College Station around there is, you're probably talking about 65,000 an acre for a 10 for 10 acres, something of that nature. You can get them anywhere from, on the bigger ranches, you can pay less than $10,000 an acre, or right around there. And then it can go up as high as $100,000 an acre, depending upon where you're at and how small the site is and the location, or even more. But I would just say that the average, like around my ranch, is probably around $35,000 to $40,000 an acre unimproved. And the other thing about Texas, we have mineral rights, which is something that most agents are not used to. And so, it's either you can sell or buy your property with mineral rights, and that makes a big difference. So you can make money from the energy under the ground. So that's a big deal in Texas as well. So there's a lot of different, depending upon where you want to be. Buying a ranch is a great investment in Texas. It's actually been a phenomenal investment because it appreciates every year and has for over 100 years, and it just has a great track record.
Of course. Yeah.
My entire impression of Texas is the movie Giant, my favorite movie ever. Is it really?
Well, if you watch Yellowstone, that's the new thing of Texas. They just bought a ranch called the Four Sixes, and they're now filming the new Yellowstone in Texas. And so one of our agents, her dad was one of the producers of it, and so that has just taken off in the United States and the world. But it's very much of kind of how you're going to see that's very much the kind of Western world of Texas. But Texas is you go to Austin and you look like well, you don't look like it because it doesn't look as bad, but it's very tech centric, San Francisco, Portland, that type of stuff. But but then you go 20 minutes outside of town and you'll find the cowboys.
Wow.
So we've been talking about the four major growth cities. They're all in the eastern half of the state. We haven't talked at all about basically what Roberto and I know is Texas is what it looks like in the movie Giant, where it's flat for as far as the eye can see, and it's dry. Is that all West Texas? And is the lack of water impacting the fact that it's not growing as fast as East Texas? Talk to us about West Texas.
Well, West Texas is a very diverse terrain, and you can go as far as El Paso, which is on the very tip of Texas. And that is very, you've got mountainous ranges over there, and then you also go all the way down the coast, down the Rio Grande, and you've got a lot of mountainous ranges over there. But as you come inwards towards east, especially northeast and near the Panhandle, that's all very much. Oh, there we go. Here we go. So I love this. So the Big Bend country, that is very mountainous. Where you see the Panhandle, that is much more flat. The Gulf Coast is also very flat. South Texas is some flat, I would say, some rolling hills. The hill country is beautiful. So I would say that the most popular place from a visual perspective is the hill country. I'd say the prairie and lakes, that is a very pretty area, but it does have some rolling terrain and very nice. The Panhandle is very flat, and Big Bend country is mountainous. And the coastal is what you see like Corpus Christi, Houston, and kind of the whole Gulf Coast there. So and then it's very wooded up in that kind of the piney woods is what they're saying. Very wooded kind of as you go into Louisiana.
There's lots of like Midland is in Big Bend country. These are all small cities, but they've been populated with oil and gas. So they're it's just that they're not as developed like big cities on the Gulf Coast. It's quite large, right? Like to give you an idea, if you actually drive from Gulf Coast all the way to California, southern parts of California, the halfway point is the tip of Texas. To give you an idea how big it is. So, that's how expansive and different the terrain can be. So Jacob is, 100% right, because it's literally, it feels like it spans multiple states, right? But it doesn't. It's the very, very tip. El Paso is 1,000 miles from the Gulf Coast. It's the halfway point between the Gulf Coast and Southern California. So it's quite large.
But you're not going to be opening up an office in the western half of Texas until what happens? They start building airports and infrastructure? Do they have to solve their water problems? What is holding us back from?
I think Elliman usually goes where there's money, and there like Midland is a very ultra wealthy little tiny town, and yeah, I mean there is the chance that we will open up offices in other markets, but I think that that's really for us is we're conservative in what we want to do things. We'd rather do fewer things and do them right and do them well, and have our efforts concentrated in specific locations. I do think in the future there will be multiple more offices in Texas, in some of these submarkets. Like for example, Fredericksburg. It's a suburb outside of Austin, San Antonio, but it's in the Hill Country. Extremely popular right now. You've got a lot of these little tiny towns, that have it. I'm from Corpus Christi. We're about to potentially take on some major projects along the Gulf Coast there that are waterfront projects with condominiums and housing and different things. And yeah, it might end up opening an office down there. But the whole thing is that it's really based off of agents, the opportunities, the developments, and just sort of the market growths of each area. But there are a lot of things happening in Texas right now that it just as things come up and we just don't want to, spread ourselves too thin. I think that too many people grow way too fast, and I think that they end up, losing, not concentrating enough on the agents they currently have and helping them grow their businesses in those markets. And so that's one thing that we really do focus on is we actually go after business as a company in these markets. So I'm every day focused on business development for the company to get more business. And so we are constantly meeting with builders and developers and different folks to feed our agents. And so that's really a big deal for us.
When you talk about development, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think that's 100% right. We don't take growth lightly. I want to grow, but I'm not going to do that at the cost of what we currently have, right? Our focus is our current agents, growing our current agents, making sure that we're providing the best services to our current agents. And, when we grow, we're making strategic decisions. We're not growing simply because I want to open an office in Midland, Texas, right? We're growing because there's a reason for me to grow there. It's strategic, and I may have an agent there, I may have a project there, something like that. But long term, our vision is to grow within the markets that we currently are in, and servicing our current agents, because especially in a time like this, it's so important for us to be focusing in. And that's always been how Jacob and I have been, right? We're entrepreneurs at heart. And so I'm constantly out there, meeting with builders. He's meeting with different developers. We're talking to, different builders, seeing what they're seeing in the market. Are they coming up with some new projects that we could list and provide, to our agents? So we're always out in the market talking to them, which I feel, that's helping our current agents. I'm not sitting there sort of thinking about, oh, I need to go grab 50 more agents in, Midland, Texas. I need to open up an office in El Paso just for the sake of announcing that I've opened up a new office. There's just no point in that. It's a waste of the company's resources and my time. So we're focused on, our current agents, growth within our current markets, and helping to service them.
Let's talk about agents. You had 1,300 employees when you owned all those Applebee's restaurants. And you said to me that having 1,300 employees, that's a lot of work, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. So let me ask you this. You said that you're growing the business. You're looking at a growth strategy. Would you take 100 new agents coming into the market now, or do you wait for them to go get some experience somewhere else and then evaluate their production and hire only seasoned agents? Which way do you go in a high growth strategy?
We really don't bring on new agents. I'll just say that. That's part of it is because of our clientele, right? Our clientele has a certain level of expectation of the quality of agent that we have here at the company. So I can't actually think of the last time I've taken on an entirely new agent without a compelling reason. Whether if they are new in the business, however, they're coming with, perhaps they were in the business before, the family and development or something, like there's a story there. Maybe they were in real estate, but not as an agent, so if there's that may be possible, but we really don't bring on, new agents like that.
Or the other aspect of it is if we do a mentorship program where they are under an agent, if we do it, there's always exceptions to every rule.
Correct.
But I think that right now the idea for us is, or what Catherine was saying is, there could be extenuating circumstances. They could be a rock star, whatever it is. Or the other one is if they're willing to be in a mentorship program with one of our existing agents. I think that's always a great thing. And I know that for substantial growth is important, but on the same token, for us, we've seen it where sometimes the newer agents end up taking a lot of the resources and time away from the staff and from the experienced agents, and then they end up it actually hurts our experienced agents from not being able to accomplish all the things that they're trying to accomplish because the staff and the resources are being overwhelmed. And so I think that that's one thing that it's time is the efficiency of an office is so important that things can turn around and that people are able to do their business appropriately. And the other thing also is that we're always trying to make sure that we're thinking about the agents first, of how do we help them grow their business? How do we provide the right platform for them? And because we want to see the growth of our agents, and that's why we're out there getting new business. That's why we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars in referrals to our agents, and we constantly are feeding people because we want to see it happen. We want to see the growth. We want the Elliman story to resonate with people that, hey, I came there, I did, my business boomed, they were supporting me, they gave me all the resources, and it was a great experience. And so I'm going to get my friends to come and join. And it's really, it's about having the right group of people together, and then we can do great things together.
I gotta ask, Jacob, as a 25-year-old, you went out there and you identified land and then convinced builders to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in massive projects. And you're 25 years old. I mean, how did you get people? So one of the questions I have is, how important are relationships in this business? And how did you get the credibility to become not just an agent, but an agent advisor partner with these developers in order to get to the level of 85%, market share? I mean, That's an incredible story. And I want to know, like, talk to me about the secret sauce that gets you the credibility as such a young agent in this business.
I'll say that relationships are everything. And I would just say that so much of it is do what you say you're going to do, and perform. You're not always going to hit 100%, but as long as that you truly are pushing every single day and that you work it every single day. I always said to everybody, I never claimed to be the smartest person in the room. I always just claimed that I would always outwork them. And that's exactly what I did. And so, so my whole thing was, I did $500 million in sales my last year as an agent. And, I was consistently doing, decent amount of sales. It's not, 4 billion, it's not 3 billion, but with my average sales price, it was, it was a decent amount to do in Houston. But while I was doing that, I was also investing and sourcing these different deals with these different developers. And so I was actually making more from the investing side than I was from the brokerage side. And now that's my main focus, of course. And so I'll say that, being able to convince people to invest with you or invest in different projects with builders and developers, it's really funny. When I first met George, which is Catherine's stepfather, and I got him to invest with my first builder. And I'll tell you, it was one of these things when in 2010, it was just this home builder that he had listed these, $2.5–4 million homes with another broker. And I said, look, if I bring you the equity for this deal, I want the listings. And so I had to convince George to come in and buy out the note. And so I had to go negotiate the note from the bank, get a discount on it. And then I got the guy to be able to buy it. Then I got the land to be able to be subordinated to the builder. And so I had to execute. I had to buy the note at a discount. I had to then negotiate the terms out of the builder and the equity guy to be able, and George, to be able to get them to, to be able to subordinate the lots so that they would have the equity to actually go and build these homes. But I got the listings, then I sold them, right? And of course, whenever you perform so not only did the equity guy love me because I got the debt at a discount that I told the guy I could actually get the debt at a discount. And then I got the builder to like me because I got the investor to agree to subordinate the lots so that he could actually build the houses. And then I got the houses sold. And so it's just like, then the investor's happy, the builder's happy, and I'm happy because I got everything done. So it was that's how it all started. It was actually this first deal on 30 Sunset in Houston, Texas with doing this. And it just compounded and compounded and compounded. And of course, a few years into it, George said, look, if you're going to bring me a deal, you got to start investing with me in the deals. And that changed the game. So, but I'll just tell you that it's been a great ride.
And he also turned to Catherine and he said, if you're tired of this Applebee's nonsense, I got this guy, Jacob, that you ought to meet.
Oh, and when I first met Catherine,
right?
I went to her offices and
tell that story, Jacob.
Oh, I will say Catherine and I are the perfect yin and yang. I mean, George knew that I needed somebody like Catherine in my life. And so I think that that's really where she really filled the void that I was missing in the way that I work, because I'm good at certain things and I'm not good at others, right? And she's very good at certain things and she's okay at others. And I have to say that it really has been a beautiful relationship and being able to really be that yin and yang together. And so we've done some great things together and built up our last firm and got this deal done with Elliman and doing more things and just continuing to grow. But I'll just say that convincing people to do deals with you, it's about, the relationship. It's about maintaining that relationship, nurturing that relationship, and actually doing what you say you're going to do, and being being communicative of what's going on, and it's so important. And I just don't think that I think people are too afraid also to ask the questions. I think every single day I ask questions that people freak out, but I go and say, hey, I need $100 million for this deal, or I need $1 billion for this deal, or whatever it is. And, and I'm literally talking with people that they can afford to write these kind of checks. And so it's just been it's been a lot of fun. And I think that there's a lot of amazing things happening in the state and a lot of amazing things happening with Elliman. And I just feel like the future is extremely bright for what's going on. Extremely bright.
The other thing I will say that Jacob's, he's being humble about this, but like communication is so key. It's so key because not every single transaction is going to go perfectly, right? Not every single deal, everyone's going to make a ton of money. And if you're constantly communicating and managing people's expectations, your credibility just goes through the roof. So even if, the deal isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, because there are factors outside of your control, whether construction costs shot through the roof, interest rates are crazy. And so you thought you were going to sell this in 6 months, but lo and behold, you're at 9 months and you're still carrying it. You've got carry costs. So there's all these factors that are outside of our control, but communicating to people, accurately communicating, that has been so critical to our success. I just can't, and Jacob is great at it. I mean, this is not him actually talking with like speed. This is just normally how he talks. He gets out 2 words for everybody else, it's 1 word. And he over communicates, calling people all the time, telling them, hey, this is the situation. I want to communicate this to you. This is where we're at. We may have to drop our prices. We may need to do this. We may need to, and that is so important to people, because people can get their heads around the fact that it may not be exactly the way that we all thought it was going to be. But if you're communicating to them, they can understand it and they can appreciate it. But if you show up in 6 months and you haven't said a darn thing and you tell them suddenly, gosh, the deal's gone totally awry, that's a really big problem. And so, communication is so key, and Jacob is really good at that.
That's really great.
Well, I'm convinced now. You got me thinking. As soon as I hang up on this call, I got to start communicating with all my clients. Tell them how much I love them.
And I will say, don't ever be afraid to either ask any question and or deliver bad news. I think that the idea here is that people just like the unknown is scarier than the known. And I think that, and when people don't know what's going on or don't understand, they'd much rather just know what's going on. And just being blunt about it and say, look, and I always do it with a laugh. Like, I'm just going to tell you some bad news. I'm sorry, but we didn't hit the mark. We didn't sell for what we thought, but look, we're going to get it next time, or, hey, we tried our best. But I think the most important thing is communicating it and making sure they understood that you really did work your ass off to make it happen. And that's the name of the game. Like I said, you outwork them and you over communicate. And those are 2 great secrets to success in real estate.
That's awesome. Listen, what you guys just communicated was fantastic. And I don't want to let this go, because I just have to learn this. Like our house, I just want to learn a little bit more about your housing stock, of what you have there. Here we have 70% rental property. Of the owned property, we have 66% co-ops, something you probably have none of. When you're talking about new developments and working with developers, what are you creating? Are you creating condominium buildings? I doubt it. What are you creating single family homes? What is the majority of what you're creating in these markets?
All the above.
All the above.
All the above.
High-rise condominiums, mid-rise condominiums, master plan communities, 1-acre lot communities, multifamily projects, both high-rise, mid-rise, garden style, workforce housing, build to rent, single-family homes, luxury single-family homes, normal single-family homes.
Creating full neighborhoods of like separate houses and.
Yep. We got all kinds of things. Our fingers are in a lot of different things, and we partner. And no co-ops. That's one thing we do not do, is co-ops. So, but I'll just say that it's we do have a lot of fun with all the other asset types, but we're very involved, and we always have great partners on what we do. So we don't actually develop ourselves. We partner with other developers, and we co-develop with them, or we're partners with them. And so it allows us to do a lot more. And so ultimately it feeds Elliman a lot bit more business as well. And the data that Elliman has and the relationships that Elliman has is amazing. And so, we really, it's about utilizing that, monetizing it, and actually turning it into business. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I think that there's so much more opportunity for agents if they just decided to dive into it, of how to monetize their relationships at Elliman and use the data that we have, and to do so much more than just being a traditional broker.
That's great. It's awesome.
I have another hour worth of questions, but I guess I'll just have to email you after the show. I mean, this has been tremendous, but I want to know about relationships versus technology, or use of technology, or use of data. There's so many things that we want to talk about, because you are such a progressive brokerage, and we're going to learn so much. So I'm going to have you back on the show. one of these days. Thank you so much for this hour. I don't want to keep you, but this has been a tremendous hour. I've learned a lot about Texas. I've learned a lot about your growth, the growth of these particular markets, your strategies. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you both. Really enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Thank you,
Thanks for
everyone.
having us.
Are
Thank
we
you so-
all invited to Texas? Have you got room for everybody? down there?
Anytime.
Anytime,
We've
come
got
on
room.
down.
Just come on down. Anytime.
All right,
Anytime.
you got it.
Come on
Texas
down.
hospitality.
We're coming.
See you soon.
Uh,
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye, y'all. Bye, y'all.
No.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.